Okay, now it is time for you to revise your newspaper article and write a final draft. If you were writing for a real newspaper, somebody else would probably do this for you because it's always best to have someone check over your work. But we're learning how to do this, so you will be doing your own. Mark revisions on your rough draft, make changes, and number 6 of them. Some of you, or maybe even all of you, might remember that we did this before in another year. Go through and mark 6 different errors in these different areas. If you find nothing to correct in one of these areas, you may substitute, but you may only substitute one time. So like if you can't find anything for number 2, maybe you could find 2 errors on number 5, and so you'll have no number 2, but you'll have 2 number 5s, that kind of thing. Number 1 says add a detail or example. Everyone can always add a detail or example. You're writing a newspaper article, you could write a more detailed sentence. Add another detail to your story. Add statistics to your story. Remember that my article was, and according to my article, 77% of those tested by the Angeles Triage Center came back positive. And so 77% is a statistic, it's specific. Let's make sure we get those right too. Names, somebody's name, that might be a number 1 thing. Instead of saying Fulana said this, or some source in the health department said this, you could say Dr. Rodrigo Ramirez said this, okay? So being more specific, that's number 1. Number 2, make sure your article is in logical or chronological order, easy to follow. So if something is out of order or is not easy to follow, then that's an organization issue. Number 2. If you can't find anything like that, you could also reorganize sentences or paragraphs. You could switch word order. So instead of saying she had beautiful long hair, you could say she had long, beautiful hair. Okay, so that counts as an organization thing. Anything where you have to change the order of something, or maybe you have a big block of words and you need to put paragraphs in. That could work for number 2 also. If you're writing an article, it's more appealing to the eye. It draws more people in to have paragraphs than to have a big long block of writing with no break. People get intimidated by that. Number 3, take opinions out, leaving only objective facts in. If you say something like that Juan Orlando really needs to be voted out of office, that is an opinion. That is not a fact. It might be a correct opinion, but we don't know. We can't prove that. So make sure you know the difference between facts and opinions. We're talking about just the facts in this article. Number 4, correct your English usage. Ask me if you need to. Or change a general or boring word to something better. Instead of saying better, I crossed that out and put more specific, and I put a little number 4 here to show you how to correct this kind of thing. Use action verbs if you can. So if you can't find any English usage problems and you think all of your words are interesting, at least all of your nouns and adjectives, then look at your verbs. If you have a lot of am, is, are, be, that kind of verb, then maybe you can change the sentences to make them have action verbs, and that would count for number 4. Correct run-on sentences, comma splices, rambling sentences. If you go on and on, it's grammatically correct, but if you have a 10-line sentence, it's too long. The one I just said was a rambling sentence, by the way. Anyway, correct fragments, or put a 2 or 3 word sentence next to a long, complex sentence. That's a variety of sentence structure and length. That counts as a fluency thing. Number 5. Number 6, conventions, correct subject-verb agreement errors. Okay, yes, you'll probably have other convention errors that you need to correct in your rough draft, but I want you to find a subject-verb agreement error and correct it. Again, if you find nothing to correct in one of these areas, you may substitute, but you may only do that one time. And then It says keep both the revisions assignment and your final draft in mind. So what that means is your revisions assignment is just to go through your rough draft and mark these 6 things, okay? But for your final draft, we want that to be as perfect as possible. And you'll probably find more than 6 errors in your rough draft. If you don't, then ask somebody else, okay? Because they probably can. And correct as many errors as you can find, not only 6. So on your revisions assignment, 6 different kinds of corrections marked with the numbers. That's 6 points. For the 7th point, if you have some other errors marked that you didn't number necessarily, then that can count for the 7th point. And then your final draft is to make it all nice and neat. Make sure it's clear where the beginning of a new paragraph is. Make sure you have periods at the end of every sentence. I'm not going to name names, although I'm tempted to. And yeah, make sure it's as perfect as you can make it, and neat, and written with a black or blue pen or a dark, heavy pencil, not a light little mechanical pencil. Because I've been having to send some assignments back to some people, and I won't name names again, that have written with those light mechanical pencils, and I cannot see it on my phone. Okay? Yeah, I think that's it. So go to your news article. Oh, and make sure that once you've done these things, if you take out your opinion, put another sentence in. We don't want your article to be super duper short. I'm not going to give you a length. But if it's like 5 sentences, it's probably too short, okay? So just be aware of that. You should include enough details to make it interesting. If you have your who, what, when, where, why, how, lead sentence, all of that stuff in your article, then it should be, you know, a good length. I'm not going to make you do it very long, but you need to make these corrections. Okay, I'm done preaching. Happy writing.